Welcome into the Hot Read podcast for Wednesday, August the 31st. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, director of published content here at BrawleySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network, and you can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. I'm joined as always by producer JT, who you can follow on social media at JT_Runke. JT, did I say Wednesday to start the show? Great start. It's a Thursday. We're recording on Thursday. Happy Thursday. This is for Friday. September 1st? Is tomorrow September 1st, JT? Are we on to September?
I believe we are.
It's football month, baby. All right. Didn't even realize it till we got here, but welcome in, JT. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a weird day. Both of us just casually spreading misinformation on the internet this morning.
Say the right thing today to save our lives.
And now we don't even know what day it is. So once again, it's a fun day, but we're getting through it.
It's a good day, and it's a fun day because we're going to be talking Titans a little bit today. We got some news to get to, but all of that comes second. If those of you that are listening live with us were with us on Wednesday's episode, on Tuesday's live recording, we teased a big announcement that we finally get to make today, something that's been in the works for about a month now and is going to impact this show for the entire 2023 NFL season. JT, we have a new sponsor here on the Hot Read podcast for the 2023 NFL season. And that sponsor is Boomba's Pizza and Tap House, a fantastic eatery and a new location, new to us at least. They have 3 Middle Tennessee locations, Boomba's does. Our location is in Spring Hill, just a short drive down I-65 from downtown Nashville. And they also have an East Nashville location, a Murfreesboro location, as well as multiple stores in Kentucky and Indiana for all of our out-of-town listeners. And if you're thinking, wow, never heard of this place before, what a random sports bar. That's the same thing we thought, JT, when they reached out to us. But we're like, let's check them out. Let's see what's going on. We met Matthew over at the Spring Hill Boomba's location, got acquainted with what Boomba's is. And guys, we've been missing out on, I don't know where Boomba's was in my life, but I'm glad that it is in my life now. And I'm so glad that we now get to spread the good news of Boomba's Craft Pizza and Tap House, because genuinely, I cannot tell you how blown away both JT and I were by this place, by the food that they have there. They are absolutely not your typical pizza sports bar. Get this, JT. They are the only pizza company in the country to have won Best Pizza in America twice in the International Pizza Championships. Didn't even know we were doing International Pizza Championships. But I mean, in the pizza community, in the whole world, they're competing. And this place has won Best Pizza 2 times. Only store to be able to say that. Other awards to their name at the International Pizza Expo in Las Vegas: winner of Best Vegetarian Pizza, winner of Best Gourmet Pizza, winner of Best International Pizza, winner of Best Non-Traditional Pizza. This place truly has it all. Great pizza from plain pepperoni to the most unique and delicious gourmet pizza you've ever tried. They've got delicious wings and appetizers, a couple dozen beers on tap, including a variety of local brews that are delicious, and we can't wait to taste test every week when we are there at Boomba's on location. And it is a sports bar, JT, so there are televisions plastered all over the place so you don't miss any of the games. We're going to be doing our Thursday shows live from Boomba's in Spring Hill here in Middle Tennessee every single Thursday all season long. We'll be recording our shows before Thursday Night Football, previewing the Titans game as we always do on our Thursday and Friday show, looking at the NFL weekend ahead, and then running down our best bet gauntlet live from the Boomba's location in Spring Hill. And then we're staying right after the show will be Thursday Night Football. We're going to stay, hang out, grab a delicious bite to eat, grab a nice brewski, kick back and watch Thursday Night Football with whoever decides to stop by. We'll be spending our Thursday night viewing experiences at Boomba's Pizza in Spring Hill. So, guys, you need to, if you live in the area, make this a regular occurrence for you. Come join us and hang out on Thursday nights at Boomba's in Spring Hill. But even if you can't come on a regular basis, you need to plan one Thursday night this year. Like, you're coming on down to Spring Hill, straight down I-65 if you live in the area. Very easy, right off the interstate. Delicious food, delicious drinks, and a fantastic time hanging out with us and watching Thursday Night Football. That is the move this year. And JT, I know I am stoked about this. We're just really excited. This place rocks.
Yeah, I'm super excited. especially to be doing the live show every single week, get to meet a lot of you guys out there. Finally, just get to meet in the area. Super excited. Like, this place is awesome. We've now gotten to try the food twice, and like,
Yes.
it's so good. So I'm super excited. Hope you guys join us out there for that. Super excited to be partnered with them now.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. So every Thursday until the Super Bowl, we'll be there, and we would love to have you all come out and join us if you can, if you're a local fan of the show. All right, with that, and we're going to be talking more and more about Boom Buzz for the rest of the year. So we'll step off of that soapbox for now and get back to Titans football. JT, kind of a lighter day today. We're going to get into some news in a bit, but first, I have some roster cutdown reactions to get into. And before I do that, real quick, those of you that are listening live with us, if you wouldn't mind heading on over to YouTube, the Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page is where you're going to want to find the live stream so that you can be a part of the conversation today, like Diesel and Marcus and Logan, all in the comments already. As Logan says, that's what we thought when we found your pod at first. Who are these fools? And look where we are now. Absolutely. That is the same deal with us and Boombaz. And I promise if you try Boombaz, it's going to rock your world. We want you to be a part of the conversation. So head on over to YouTube and find the Broadway Sports Media page where this live stream is located, and you can join the comment section there. Also, if you're listening live, do us a favor. Send this link to a buddy, send it to a friend, send it to a family member. Like this post, retweet this post, comment on this post, however you can help us with interactions on this live stream to get as many eyeballs in here as possible would be considered a personal favor. So thank you in advance for doing that. All right, JT, some roster cut down reactions from today. I was at Titans HQ, was at practice today. We spoke to the Titans GM, Ran Carthon. We spoke to the Titans head coach, Mike Vrabel, and we got access to the locker room and spoke to a number of the players that had made the 53-man roster and the practice squad, as well as got to see a little bit of the practice today. And I just wanted to basically, I went on a fact-finding mission and brought back as much information from this morning and this afternoon that I possibly can to share with you, our dear listeners. So let me run through all of that real quick, and we can discuss along the way what we think about these things. But we spoke to Ran Carthon first this morning, and we asked him about how every single member of his rookie draft class, all 6 guys that he drafted, his first draft class as an NFL GM, ended up making the final 53-man roster, and he was clear that they all earned their spot. Nothing was given. So I saw some people on social media saying this, classic GMs, their hubris, wanting to prove that a player, was a reasonable pick by adding them to the roster and inflating their sense of worth. Like, I don't think that's the case. None of these players were expected to be out and got in, I think, by any of us that were predicting 53-man rosters. If any, maybe Colton Dowell, but he's that 7th round, and with the 7th round pick, it's kind of a coin flip, and he gets in. Not to say he's not a good player and deserves to be on the team, but I think that we can all agree that if Kyle Phillips was healthy and ready to go, his chances of being on the team were probably significantly diminished, because we talked to the coaches today about how, like, why'd you keep 7 receivers? And they're like, we kept 6 receivers because one of them is going to IR. Like, that's kind of the whole point of him getting in and not being on the bubble there. He also pointed out that the Titans are still in talks with former Bears pass rusher Trevis Gibson, who we'll talk about in the news section some more today. But Trevis is a guy that the Titans have added to their pass rush rotation. And folks saw that news this morning that they're still in talks, wondering if that's not going to go through. It is. He was there in the locker room. He was suiting up for practice. Like, they're still nailing down the contract. And I believe we just got word as the show began today that they have officially added him to the 53-man roster. So nothing to worry about there. We asked him about Nick Folk, the Titans' new kicker that he traded a 2025 7th-round pick to New England for. Asked him about what he thought about his ability. He said he's a veteran, made a lot of kicks in his career. If they aren't going to be getting touchbacks, there are 10 other guys on the field whose job it is to tackle. So, as we talked about, Nick Folk, very, very good kicker, but not the greatest kick offer. His kickoff acumen in terms of getting the ball all the way into the end zone for a touchback, very low rate as compared to the field of his peers. And so something that is of concern. But they do have a new guy in Cade York who's got a massive leg and can kick off if they need him to come up and be it wouldn't shock me if maybe they bring him up to be your kickoff specialist if they're having troubles with Nick Folk. And he just does kickoffs and gets it out the back of the end zone, and that's not an issue. We asked him about the process on Cutdown Day, having to deliver good news and bad news. And he said on having to deliver bad news that it never gets easy. It never is going to get easy. He said, if it ever does get easy for me, I'm going to need to check myself, and that they just try to take a very human approach to it all and make sure that the guys they do have to part ways with know that they're willing to do whatever they can to help them and further their career. But he also said that they called some of the guys that had made it, called them into the office to just let them know that they had made it, let them know that now is not the time to relax. Now is the time to double down. And, being on the 53-man roster is different than staying on the 53-man roster, and talk to some of these younger guys, especially the ones that just barely made it, about the things they need to be doing in order to stay on the 53-man roster and not slip up based on what they have done so far this month as a Tennessee Titan. But they said that they didn't give the guys they called in for good news any indication that they were getting good news. And on Cutdown Day, you really you're just hoping you don't get a call typically, because if you don't get a call, you're still on the team. Your contract has not been ripped up and thrown away. And so I'd imagine for some of those guys, especially the ones that didn't know whether or not they'd be on the team or not, that call was nerve-wracking. That drive to the facility was nerve-wracking. Going in, I mean, he just said that they let some guys know that Rand and Mike needed to speak to them. Can they please come to the facility? Sounds a little bit scary, but then that sigh of relief when they're like, we just wanted to let you know that you are making the team. I'm sure that was a nice feeling for them. Rand also said that they've not had any discussions about extending veterans nearing the end of their contract beyond this year. Did mention that they have some guys definitely earmarked to hopefully keep around for a long time, but he wants to see the guys play this year and to earn it. And I think that's the right thing to do for this team, for this GM, a new GM with a team that is in a transitional period in their team building process, is in a year where they've got a lot of expiring contracts at the end of the year that will allow them, if they decide to take a different tack, they can offload a lot of older, more burdensome contracts, get younger as a team, have a lot of space to maneuver and be flexible in that way. And so that is the right way, in my opinion, to approach this. You don't want to tie yourself up any further beyond this year than you need to, especially since it has been kind of set up partially by Rand Carthon, partially by John Robinson, for a lot of these guys to, Derrick Henry off the books after this year, Ryan Tannehill off the books after this year, if you'd like. I believe there's an out for Kevin Byard after this year, if you'd like. You've got a lot of contracts that look like that, and that's the way you should keep it. Not to say that you aren't going to keep some of these guys around, but you just keep your options available to you, I think, is the right way to approach that. We asked him about DeAndre Hopkins, and he said Hop's been great. He's been great. He's a worker. It's a joy to have him around. Said that he's pretty sure when he first got here that some of the younger guys were making him feel like an old head, seeing him in the hallways, elbowing their buddy and be like, I grew up watching this guy, making him feel old, but he has really enveloped himself in the culture, enveloped himself in the wide receiver room and the offense and the team as a whole. And they've embraced him and he's embraced them. And so he's happy with the way that has been going. We asked him about Ryan Tannehill handling the two young quarterbacks behind him. And he said that Ryan is a consummate pro. I'm sure Ryan is not focused on who we drafted this year or last year. Ryan is focused on doing what he can to make us the best football team this year, which is the correct answer. And truly is, in my experience in the last 2 years, the way that Ryan handles himself. So that's not shocking at all. Before we move on to Mike Vrabel, any comments, JT, on our comments from Rand Carthon?
Not a lot. Just like Logan brings up a point that has been talked about a lot this week that I feel like we really didn't cover. Like, can Stone Punter, aka Ryan Stonehouse, not be a kickoff specialist? I feel like we've touched on that, but like, we have just not what they want to do with him. I feel like he's a good punter. Let him just punt, I feel like that's their sentiment as well. Well,
yeah, and I think that they have said explicitly, Mike Vrabel has said explicitly, that's not an option for us. Like he has not done that since high school, I believe. That's one way or another. He is confident that's not something that they can do. They would if they could, trust me, but that's not. I don't think that's something that he can do. Sometimes guys just, a punter and a place kicker. Sometimes guys that are punters just cannot place kick to save their lives. And sometimes guys that can place kick cannot punt to save their lives. So that's not surprising. So moving on to some comments from Mike Vrabel. We asked him about Nick Folk, the new kicker. He kind of downplayed the kickoffs as an issue for him, which is not shocking from Mike Vrabel. But it is. You can downplay it all you want. It is in fact an issue there. It is a concern. His touchback rate last year, unless the Patriots were just telling him not to kick it out back of the end zone, which doesn't make any sense. Not a thing, I don't think. But he also said that bringing in Cade was a good opportunity for them to allow him to develop and see what he can do, just kind of give him some space to develop. And he made clear that Nick is their kicker, but having Cade around is I think good for the future health of this team, and potentially having a steal of a guy that he was drafted in the 3rd or 4th round, I believe, by Cleveland just a year ago. So he was a guy that in college was a stud, and they're hoping they can get him back on track in that way. I asked him about keeping just 3 tight ends on the roster, on the initial 53-man roster. I set up the question because I've had so many people in the last 48 hours, JT, mention to me or disagree with me on the idea that, well, the Titans are keeping 7 receivers and 3 tight ends because that's indicative of this new age offense. They're moving into a more modern spread pass happy offense. They don't need a lot of 2 tight end sets. It's going to be a lot of 11 personnel. Let's rock and roll. I've been saying pump the brakes on that. I don't think that's the case. I think that the numbers involved with the skill position rooms on the initial 53-man roster has much more to do with the injury situation of Treylon Burks and to a much larger extent Kyle Phillips, and much less to do with the way that this team is going to operate. Again, their own personnel depth chart that they have put out for us, the unofficial depth chart before, and we'll get an official depth chart next week in week 1. It's in 12 personnel. It involves 2 tight ends on the field. So having just 3, I think, is a concern. Now, what it does do is, like, it tells us that they are more confident, I think, in those 3 guys' blocking ability than maybe they have let on, and certainly than we are as fans and as media. Like Chigakonkwo and Josh Wiley in particular, I think that is very telling. He, as your 3rd tight end, you must have more faith in him as a blocker than we are giving him credit for. Whether that is warranted or not will bear itself out as we get into some real football, but you got to have blocking tight ends in this scheme and for this offense and for this offensive line. And, we know that Wesco is going to be one of those guys. Chig or Josh are going to have to be one of those other guys, and we'll see what they can do in that capacity. But so I kind of set up the question intentionally asking, is this indicative of your new offense looking different than what it has been in the past, and being, demanding a different set of personnel? I was intentionally asking that, not because I thought that is the case, but because of the opposite. I think that's not the case. So I was kind of lobbing him up a softball for him to spike down. Like, I wanted him to, give us a definitive answer on that specific query, on that specific question. And he said that, he and Rand just try to look at each guy and think about who their backup will be, and that he kind of feels that's just how the roster fell this year. He wants to have those replacements available, like on the practice squad, for example. So today it's 3 guys. He said next week or down the road this season, that could change. Really alluded to the idea that this is not a permanent fixture by any means, and that, yes, they're confident in those 3 guys, but having more tight ends as a part of the mix is something that they are keeping front of mind and may very well be a part of their near future. He also then went on to really emphasize how vital turnovers are in the game of football. Said that they continue to work with Malik to better protect the ball as he continues to show improvement in other areas. Says there's been a lot of great from Malik, a lot of great positive things this season as he's developed, but he knows he has to be a better protector of the football. Then he went on to talk about Monty Rice, and very vague, and this situation is vague and strange, and it has been vague and strange for 2 or 3 weeks now, JT. We asked him about Rice, who's now returning to practice, and like how he's doing, what he dealt with, and he gave this super weird, vague answer. He just said that he came back. Monty came back when he was healthy. And we asked him if he's had to deal with something and is back from that now, and he answered something along the lines of, "Well, in this particular instance, yes." It just the whole answer, which I wish I had verbatim. I didn't write down verbatim in the moment. It was strange, JT. And we heard from Monty in the locker room on Monday. I think it was our buddy Nick Suss from the Tennessean asked him, like, what's been going on with you? And he just said, life, man, life, which either is a very strange way of answering or of an all-time evasive answer. Sometimes you get just, you don't want to talk about your injuries. So you're just like, dealing with life, man. Just whatever life throws at you. And I didn't really know at the time which of those two ways to take it. It sounds like he may have actually been dealing with something in life, but also been injured. And he kind of alluded to maybe not being injured on Monday in the locker room, but didn't explicitly say he wasn't. But then today at the podium, Mike Vrabel was explicitly saying he was. And when questioned, well, Monty kind of alluded to maybe not being injured. And Mike was like kind of caught off guard by that comment and was just like, whatever Monty says for himself, I'm going to let him speak for himself. But when Monty came back, it was because he was healthy, which was all he reiterated. So weird. I don't know who's lying or kind of obfuscating the truth. I don't know. Monty Rice is the weirdest, biggest red flag situation on this team right now for my money. Something that we probably need to consider, like keep an eye on as we consider the future of this team and as we move forward. So that was very strange. Let's talk about Corey Levin, JT. Walked into the Titans locker room, and as I walked in, walking down the hall and around the corner and in with me was Corey Levin, offensive lineman for the Titans that was cut yesterday. We thought maybe it was a procedural situation as he may have been cut because I don't think Kyle Phillips IR. Actually, I know now that Kyle Phillips, I said I don't think. I'm not trying to lie to people, but there's certain things we know that we can't say yet. I now know I can say this. Kyle Phillips IR transaction did not process until the end of the day yesterday or until today. And so in order to make room for some guys yesterday, they had to cut Corey Levin. But I do think it was a procedural thing because as of today, he's been added back to the active roster. Was there when we walked in. I'm like, Corey, what's going on? Are you signing back with the team? And he just smiled and said, yeah, we'll see. And then he started putting on his cleats and jersey for practice. So yes. We now know that the Titans have just recently announced that he is officially back on the active roster. And then during practice, Teron Davenport reported that offensive line Justin Murray had been released from the Titans squad. Which let me just run down this list, this flurry of roster moves the Titans made about 20 or 30 minutes ago. And then I want to discuss what this is telling us about where they see their offensive line right now, kind of the inside baseball on it all. So the Titans, as of this afternoon, have officially made the following transactions. Edge Travis Gibson from Chicago has been added to the active roster. Offensive lineman Corey Levin has been added back to the active roster after being cut yesterday. Wide receiver Kyle Phillips, as expected, placed on IR for at least the first 4 games of the season. Offensive lineman Justin Murray has been released from the active roster. Kicker Cade York officially signed to the practice squad, and to make room for him, outside linebacker Sam Aquanu released from the practice squad. And so all of that, in addition to the fact that Dylan Radins is now off of PUP, I came away, I was driving my car back from practice kind of thinking, what are my takeaways from today, JT? And the number one piece of Titans analysis insight that I can give today, because it's a lot of just information from me, not a lot of opinion. This is the opinion that I want to share that I feel confident about, and I think makes a lot of sense. This Titans team pretty clearly is telegraphing to us that they're really confident that Dylan Radins is going to be ready soon. Soon. I don't know about week 1 soon, but here's the deal. He was on the PUP list, right? He was on the physically unable to perform list all camp long. And then right before Cutdown day, 72 hours before Cutdown day, they bring him off the PUP list and add him to the active 90-man squad. Then they make him a part of the 53-man roster, obviously. But they could have just left him on the PUP list. And we talked about this on the past couple episodes. And my answer was basically, I don't know. I don't know why they did this. I would expect he's not ready soon. I've changed my mind. I think I was wrong. I think that he's going to be ready soon, because there is simply no reason that I can see now for them to have taken him off the PUP list if they weren't thinking he might be ready to contribute in the first 4 weeks. JT, if you're on the PUP list like Caleb Farley is, for example, that means this year, I think this is new this year, it's a lot like IR mandatory to start the year. So if you cannot, if you start the season on the PUP list, you don't count against the 53-man roster, but you also do not qualify to be able to play. You're not eligible to play in at least the first 4 games of the year. And so if you didn't think he was going to be ready before then, there was no reason to take him off the PUP list and take up a roster spot. Kind of bolstering that opinion and that assumption is the fact that they cut, arguably, I would argue definitively, the second best swing tackle option on this team and replaced him with Corey Levin today, your swing interior offensive lineman. A very good lineman, but not a tackle, right? And now you've got Jalen Duncan and Xavier Newman-Johnson are the two presumed healthy tackles in line behind starter right tackle Chris Hubbard and, of course, left tackle Andre Dillard. Like, that's concerning unless, again, Dylan Radins is your current swing tackle. And frankly, JT, like we saw at the end of last year, he started to find some rhythm. We saw him come in the LA game, the Chargers game where he tore his ACL in mid-December last year. He looked really good in the couple of snaps that he got before going down in that game with that ACL injury. He was going from, in the eyes of many, like bona fide bust, waste of a draft pick, to maybe finally finding his stride as a swing tackle, maybe even a starting tackle one day. We'll see. Well, I kind of think that they may JT, I'm at the point where I'm not sure that Chris Hubbard has the first 6 weeks until totally blanking.
NPF.
Thank you, NPF. I've totally blocked it from my brain at this point. Until NPF comes back, you may see Dylan Radins get that right tackle job over Chris Hubbard as soon as he's healthy within those first 6 weeks. And if he's any good, based on what we saw from NPF in the preseason, he may just have the job. Like, we may see a season in which Dylan Radins, coming off of an ACL injury, is the Titans' new starting right tackle. Is this crazy? I kind of think this all tracks.
It does. It's just like it's pretty interesting that that he is kind of back. We kind of said, like, on literally the last show, it'd be kind of a miracle if like week 1 Dylan Radins is like back and totally healthy, and like, because he did. It has been only 250 days, give or take, that since Dylan Radins tore his ACL. So like, no, it isn't crazy. I do still think that like Chris Hubbard probably gets like the first or second like week to truly start at the right tackle position and kind of use Dylan Radins to get him back into that action. Like, the thing I think you want to caution is like just throwing Dylan Radins back into there, like to start on in the first or second week, and then like potentially do something against that knee. But as that swing tackle early in the season here, like, I don't think it'd be crazy to give him a few snaps here or there and kind of just slowly ease him back in if he truly is ready to come back.
Well, and Logan asks in the comments here, let's say Radins is tackle 3. Why the sudden jump? He seemed to be in the doghouse, and then now they like him, especially after an injury. Logan, I think that you're forgetting what the narrative on him was as we approached the mid to end point of last season. Remember, the Titans offensive line coach and Mike Vrabel continued to push, no, we've got to keep this guy, Dennis Daly, in at left tackle. We're not going to try Dylan Radins over there. We're not going to try it. We're not going to try it. And then they finally did. And he looked good, and folks were like, yes, awesome. Like, he's a replacement level tackle. Maybe he's developed like he's been practicing behind the scenes all of last year. We perceived him to be in the doghouse because they wouldn't start him over Dennis Daly. We're like, he must suck. No, like, I think that he was better than Dennis Daly, and they were just being boneheaded about it. Like, that was the conclusion we came to. And they put him in there, and then he got a really unfortunate sudden injury. And so I don't think he's in the doghouse by any means. I don't think he has been since the injury. And Vrabel said himself today, we asked him, by the way, I forgot to mention this. We asked him about Radins, and he said that Radins has been coming to him basically all month, being like, Coach, I'm ready. Coach, I'm ready. Like, let's do it. And, the medicals, like, they're still like, let's wait, hang on. We'll be soon. And then now he's back. And I went back and looked at the exact date, by the way. I think it was December 16th they played last year. The Chargers when he tore his ACL. So right now, as of right now, it's been like right at 8.5 months ish since that ACL injury, which is like, you look at the charts on when guys return. I think that the mean return time is like 9.75 months, give or take a month and a half. So right around 10 months, give or take a month and a half. So that's not like, this is the very front end of that return window for most guys based on the injury analytics. But by week 1, that'll be almost 9 months, right? And, so by week 3, for example, almost 10 months. So 9.5, right over 9.5 months, doing my math in my head. So yeah, like that's not crazy to think that he could, and he's he's a very young guy in terms of NFL tread on his tires, fresh legs, like not played a lot of NFL snaps, didn't play a ton of snaps, I don't believe, in college. Like he wasn't super old coming out. So all of this points to maybe he's just returning soon. And like if it was a very clean ACL tear and or a very clean recovery, like the surgery, the grafted tendon took well. Like sometimes it's just bodies are different, recoveries are different. And also, this is not him trying to take over a job for like a league median tackle. This is taking over for 32-year-old Chris Hubbard, who, like, we're not to say that Chris is for sure going to be a disaster, but more likely than not, he's a liability. Like, is that crazy to say? He brought in off the streets for no money, essentially. He's 32 years old. He's not played much football at all in the last 2 years, and what he has played has been sub 50 PFF grades, which is very, very bad. I don't think it's crazy to think that they think maybe he's the guy and comes back and is serviceable in that way. And again, he's got a great opportunity for himself if that's the case, because it won't be that hard for him to take over that right tackle job for the 6 weeks that MPF is out. And then if he looks good, he may just take MPF's job, and MPF may have screwed himself over royally and be a swing tackle now and lost his starting position on a team. So all of that is the most interesting thing from today and something that we definitely needed to discuss. One more thing, I have some more notes from practice that I want to discuss. But one thing I've been saying that I was wrong about, that I need to make a correction about, really more of a clarification than a correction, but a correction as well. With Thomas Odukoya, one of our favorite tight ends from this Titans team that didn't make the final 53, thought for sure that he would, was shocked that he didn't. He is kept on functionally on the practice squad, but in that international player pathway program exemption spot. And so he gets to count as a 17th practice squad player. He doesn't count against the 16 on your practice squad. The thing that I believe Paul Kaharski wrote about this, and he did, good on him for getting to the bottom of this, because I was curious if there were any interesting rules regarding that international spot. From what I understood from what he wrote, the Titans would have to move him from the international spot to the practice squad in order to then call him up, and to call him onto the 53-man roster. They would have to forfeit that international exemption for him. So he would no longer you wouldn't be able to put him back down as a 17th guy like that. Once he's out, he's out. And in his career, they've not had him on the 53, so he gets to stay in that slot. But once he's out, and you got to put him on the practice squad. I also think, and I wish I'd looked this up before. Go read the paulkaharski.com article on this for clarification if you're curious. But I think he also said there's a period in which, if you're going to move him on out of that international spot into the practice squad spot, there's then like an incubation period where he can't be moved up. Like he has to do 2 or 3 weeks on the practice squad before he can then be moved up to the active roster. So I don't think you can do that like that. You can't take him straight from the international spot to the 53. There's a waiting period. So I'll get clarification on that, but certainly something that is important to note. And maybe, if we see in week 1 or week 2, Kevin Rader get called up to be a 4th tight end instead of Thomas Odukoya, that's why, I think. Okay. Any more comments before I move on, JT?
Not really. Just Diesel saying, finally play Radens at tackle, and if he flourishes, laying great foundation for Skoronski in future years. Also, Music Malik.
And we saw him get right tackle work today, by the way, in the limited practice we saw. That is where we saw Dylan Radens was at the right tackle position.
And then finally, you can maybe just put your little.
I will not back down from this nickname. The Nasty Nut is the nickname for Julius Chestnut. I've been calling him that to my friends. My friends and I have been calling him that for 2 years now, since he came to the Titans roster. I think it's a fantastic nickname. If you think it's gross or weird, get your head out of the gutter, you nasty, nasty person. It is an alliterative, descriptive nickname that rolls off the tongue. Look at the Nasty Nut Rumble. Tell me that does not just flow like honey off of the tongue, and it's funny. And so I will not be deterred. I think it's a hilarious nickname. Get over yourself. If you just don't be a hater. Being a hater is no fun. Like if you don't like the nickname, don't use it, but don't be a hater, man. I think it's hilarious. All right. Some more notes from practice. No sign of a couple of players today. Harold Landry, Arden Key, Jeffrey Simmons, Jaden Peavy, Trey Avery, Kyle Phillips. Mixed bag there with Arden Key and Kyle Phillips. We know that there's an injury situation there. Guys like Landry, probably maybe a maintenance day or just a veteran day, one of the two. Simmons, obviously a veteran day. Jaden Peavy and Trey Avery. No indication on my end in terms of thinking that they're not just getting a day off. We'll have to see. Maybe they're injured, but no indication on my end. We, like I've said before, we did see the two newest Titans from foreign teams brought in the past 48 hours. Travis Gibson from Chicago and Kendall Vildor, also from Chicago. The Titans' one and only waiver claim that they brought in a defensive back for the Titans team that is right up Mike Vrabel's alley. A very physical, borderline grabby defensive back, a cornerback that is just crazy physical and can play, I think, play some slot and also can play some linebacker if you need him to. Like, that's something that I think Mike Vrabel wanted, and that's why he brought him in. We'll talk some more about him in a bit. And then we saw a lot of one-on-one work for Travis Gibson, the Titans' new pass rusher, with outside linebacker coach Ryan Crow and assistant offensive linebacker coach. Gibson was wearing number 91 for reference. Now, Nick Folk, I spoke to him in the locker room. He said he's been training this offseason for kickoffs. He's ready to do that when asked. So certainly something he's aware of. I think he's aware of that deficiency at the kickoff, in the kickoff role, and is working on that actively. He found out, he said that he would be moved from New England when Coach Bill Belichick called him, said that the Titans were interested. He spoke to Vrabel, and they made it happen. Spoke to Cade York as well, the Titans practice squad kicker from Cleveland. He said he was ready to get here, get to work, get back on track. His attitude was pretty lowly, like kind of arguably like a little bit bummed and down. Like he seemed kind of sad, to be honest. Maybe he was just, maybe that's I don't know him yet. Maybe that's just the way he is all the time, and he's just kind of chill. But he seemed like a guy that was kind of bummed to, understandably so, traded from the team you were drafted to, knocked down a peg from a starting kicker to a practice squad kicker, like understandable there. But he said that he's here to get to work, and he said that he thinks his struggles were more mental than physical last year and this year. He has not lost his confidence, he said. He just has to find his rhythm again. So I think, I don't know, like I should ask him or other kickers, like, do you go through phases where it's like, if you're like, I'm a golfer, and there are times when I like 2 weeks I feel really hot, and then 2 weeks I feel kind of cold. And it's like there's an ebb and a flow to finding your rhythm in some of these things, especially a tempo activity like that. I wonder if that's the case for kicker. Obviously, the best of the best, like the best golfers in the world, their tempo is always very high, even when they're down. With the best kickers, even when Justin Tucker's having a bad week stretch, he's still the best kicker in the world. So I think that is something you factor in. But I wonder if that's the case for these guys. Spoke to a couple of rookie wide receivers as well. The last couple of guys I wanted to mention, Kearis Jackson. Mentioned to him, his Georgia teammates apparently went crazy, according to his former coach, Kirby Smart, who spoke to a reporter with The Athletic earlier this week, saying that he let his team know the day of that announcement before their practice out there in Athens, Georgia, that, hey, Kearis had made the Titans 53-man roster, the active roster, not on a practice squad, on the real team. And he said they all went bonkers, and Kearis lit up when we mentioned that, said he loves the support he has from his teammates and his former coaches. And then Colton Dowell asked him about whether he was called in to find out he was on the team or not. He said no, he just found out on Twitter. He just never got a call before 3, which he figured was a good thing. And then he found out on Twitter from, I'm guessing, our Justin Mello, that, hey, Colton Dowell on the Titans 53-man roster. He also said that he feels his ability on special teams lent a lot to him making the cut. All right, that's all the information I have for you today. Again, kind of a fact-finding mission from me at Titans camp. Threw that all out there to you. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a bore, but I think a lot of information that folks will find interesting. And now, before we get out of here, JT, let's get to some news. This is the news with producer JT.
Yeah, let's talk about these two new Titans acquisitions from waivers, both coming from Chicago. We'll start with Travis Gibson, who I don't want to, just the vibes on this one are a little weird out of Chicago, it feels like. But Travis
Wait, it
Gibson
ended there, you mean? Yeah, no, I'm with you.
The way it ended there.
Right.
But Travis Gibson, he's 26, and he had a breakout season with the Bears in 2021, and that was recording 7 sacks and 5 forced fumbles as an outside linebacker, and that was when Chicago was playing more of a 3-4 scheme that season. But then last season, Gibson struggled as a defensive end when they moved to a 4-3 front under Matt Eberflus, finishing with just 3 sacks, so still got some production. However, Bears general manager on the cut said that he likes Gibson as a player, but admitted that his success came in a different scheme. So quite interesting, but obviously a great depth signing here for the Titans. especially in an already good defensive front room. It just makes it even better. Your thoughts on the signing, Easton?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we went from a Titans defense that really we felt had no depth in most positions to now the Titans defense where on the front at least, like this defensive front is really, really nasty. You've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 guys that you trust to be out there. It kind of feels like you've got 3 different groups. You've got your defensive tackle, inside nose tackle guys in Jeffrey Simmons, Tier Tart, Jaden Peavy, Naquan Jones. Your defensive ends in Danico Autry, Arden Key, Rashad Weaver, all 3 of those guys, starting caliber players. And then your outside linebackers, led by Harold Landry, but then you've got Gibson now in the mix, as well as rookie pass rush specialist Caleb Murphy. At least 9 of those 10 guys, really nasty starting caliber players in the eyes of many, and certainly the upside with many of them, I think, is starting caliber players. So they are really deep on the defensive front, and I think really, really nasty, and it's going to be awesome to watch them this year.
Yeah, and then we can move on to Kendall Vinder, another guy that kind of went a little bit under the radar yesterday, but a depth signing in the secondary nonetheless. Vilder was drafted also by the Bears in the 5th round of the 2020 NFL draft after playing college at Georgia Southern. In 3 seasons now, Vilder has played in 44 career games in which he started half of those, and he's been credited with 67 tackles, 1 interception, 10 passes defended, and 1 sack. Your thoughts on this signing, Easton?
Yeah, I mean, kind of random, if I'm being honest, but certainly a guy that, you look into him, he fits the bill for a Mike Vrabel defender, the DB that I think he probably has had his eye on for a little bit now. Obviously, he's a guy that they targeted to want, cut by the Bears. They wanted him on their active roster. Clearly, they see something in him. We'll see if he, develops into something for them.
Yeah, and then finally, we had a big signing today, or at least a extension today for one man named T.J. Hawkinson with the Vikings. Hawkinson is signing a 4-year, $68.5 million contract extension that resets the tight end market. The $17.125 million annual salary and $42.5 million guaranteed is the highest for a tight end in NFL history. Just for some context, TJ Hawkinson is now making 17.1 annually. Darren Waller is second with 17. George Kittle is third with 15 million. And then Travis Kelce is fourth on the list for tight ends, making $14.3 million. Easton, your reaction to this, and then also now that Hawkinson has set the market, what do you think Chig will set the market at?
25 million APY, 7-year deal. I don't know, man. Like that's a pretty crazy amount of money. Like I'm happy for him. I'm glad for the tight ends everywhere that their market continues to increase and they're getting paid what they feel that they're due.
Running backs just once again pounding the table.
Absolutely getting screwed left and right. All of their teammates taking all of their potential money. Yeah, I mean it's a crazy contract. If he can produce the way that he did last year in a short amount of time with the team, if he's that, second option, first, not first, but in front of Justin Jefferson, but number 1 guy besides Jefferson in the passing game, and is also a key blocking element of their team. I don't see why not. I don't see why he shouldn't be paid that. So we'll see if he can maintain that level of play.
And that's going to be it for our news today.
All right, that's it for the news, and that's it for our show today. Appreciate everybody tuning in with us live. Kind of an abbreviated one today, but we've got 3 shows lined up for you next week that I'm stoked about. 2 with guests to start the week. One of which is an awesome show concept that's going to be very fun, maybe very humorous. JT and I are going to spend a long time prepping for that one and getting ready for kind of an off-the-wall subject. It's along the lines of a prediction show. It's going to be a before the season starts, just get our predictions out there, but a fun twist on that. So excited for that and for our guests. And then on Thursday, we debut our live show series from Boom Buzz Pizza in Spring Hill. Appreciate our new sponsor, Boom Buzz, for making this show possible, and for all of the fun we're going to have with them this season. A couple of things for you. Go make sure you are subscribed on Twitter. Make sure, or on Twitter, on YouTube, and you're following us on Twitter. Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. That's the YouTube page you need to be subscribed to get these live videos, as well as just our posted YouTube videos, shorts, all of these things that we're going to be doing this season on social media, such as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Hot Read Pod. It's where you need to follow us to get all of the updates on the show and know when we go live. Like today, when we have to go live a couple of minutes early, then you'll know if you're subscribed or following the Twitter account, the Hot Read Podcast Twitter account, which is at Hot Read Pod. Make sure that you are following us on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you're subscribed there and leave a rating and a review for us. Very helpful on that front. And until Monday morning, when we'll be back, I hope you all enjoy your weekend. Watch some college football, kick back, enjoy your last weekend without NFL football, because as soon as we get to Monday, week 1 is upon us. Until then, for producer JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. We'll talk to you then.